The tourist yanked the guard's belt, thinking she was allowed to do anything. But one step forward and a loud warning changed everything. That day became a lesson for her that millions would remember. The morning in London was typical. Grey sky, a light breeze, carrying the smell of wet asphalt, and a crowded mob in front of Buckingham Palace. There, against the majestic gates, stood the guard, tall, lean, like the embodiment of British tradition. His crimson uniform fit perfectly. The bearskin hat added gravitas, and his hands gripped the rifle tightly. He did not move, like a statue, though it was clear he was alive. His chest rose and fell steadily, displaying deep calm. The Royal Guard, a symbol of honor, resilience, and respect. The crowd buzzed around him like a swarm of bees. Tourists snapped photos, took selfies, some stood in reverent silence. But not everyone. Among the people, like a splash of color, on a black and white photograph, a woman stood out. Karen. Even if you've never met Karen, you would instantly recognize her. It's her. A massive figure in a neon pink tracksuit that clung so tightly to her body, it seemed like the fabric might rip. On her head was a shiny cap. Beneath it, her hair was hastily tied in a ponytail. In one hand, a giant coffee cup with the logo of a famous chain. In the other, a phone ready to film the show. Her face was a mix of contempt and self-satisfaction. It was the expression of someone who was certain the world was created for them, and anyone who disagreed simply didn't understand their greatness. "Hey, look at this guy!" Karen pushed her way forward, laughing loudly. Several tourists unhappily stepped aside, clearly not wanting to be knocked over. "He's probably just a wax figure." The crowd momentarily fell silent, watching to see what she would do next. But Karen seemed unaware of the attention. She chuckled and approached the line that divided the tourists from the guarded area, as if it didn't apply to her. "Hey, Mr. Guard, can't you smile? We're here for fun," she shouted, accompanying her words with a loud laugh. Her voice sounded as though she were trying to rip the mask off the palace itself. The crowd around her tensed. Some clearly disapproved of her behavior, but most just watched, not daring to intervene. Cameras shot up. They had to record how this would end. What if? After all, the guard can't do anything, right? Karen didn't stop, her massive backpack full of souvenirs. Bumped into a man nearby, but she didn't apologize, only added, "Maybe I should ticklish him. He's probably just waiting for me to do it." The guard stayed motionless. His face remained impassive, his gaze focused ahead. He embodied the ideal of self-control, as if everything happening was just an illusion, not worth his attention. But the tension was palpable. The crowd held its breath. "Come on, buddy. You know we pay to watch you. You're here for us." Karen took another step forward, her eyes sparkling with anticipation. She already imagined filming this on her phone and telling her friends about how she made the Royal Guard move. Then a light breeze shifted the white line, the one she had just crossed with her step. The white line on the asphalt, a reminder to tourists that they shouldn't go further. And everyone knew. This was no joke. Seriously? She actually decided to do this? Thought everyone watching. The guard stayed still, but the crowd saw his jaw tense. Karen stepped over the white line, and the tension in the crowd instantly escalated. Many knew. This line wasn't just a mark, it was a boundary, where the royal protocol began. But it seemed Karen had never heard of a word like boundaries. Her massive steps felt like tiny earthquakes, and her face shone with self-satisfied superiority. She was sure that the whole scene was being played out just for her. "Well, Mr. Serious, show us something," she yelled, placing her huge coffee cup right on the fence as if it were her personal property. Then, in her usual manner, she laughed loudly, glancing around for support. Some nervously laughed, but most looked on in clear disapproval. "Is this something beyond the limits?" mumbled a spectator, watching her approach the guard. Is she really doing this? Karen was now half a meter away from the motionless guard, who was like a carved statue. He looked through her, his eyes staring into the distance. His face remained marble quiet. But this wasn't enough for Karen. She wanted a show. "Are you seriously not moving?" she mocked. "Maybe you're just a mannequin? Oh, what if I check?" She reached out and yanked his belt. The crowd gasped. An indignant murmur spread around. "Goodness!" an elderly woman with a cane exclaimed, shocked, covering her mouth with her hand. "This is a disgrace!" The guard remained still, but there was a subtle tension in his gaze. Everyone watching could feel it. He was like a tightly wound string, about to snap. Karen, on the other hand, felt no shame. Instead, she smirked with self-satisfaction, pulling harder on the belt. "Ha! I knew it! It's all fake," she announced, as if she had just uncovered a state secret. Then, deciding to push further, she reached for his bearskin hat. But her hand never reached its target. The guard took a sharp step forward. His imposing figure suddenly came to life, and the crowd pulled back, like a powerful explosion had just gone off. The hum of voices was replaced with complete silence. His voice rumbled like thunder, shattering the air. "Ma'am, step away immediately." These few words were like a hammer blow, shattering her confident facade. Karen instinctively took a step back, her face momentarily losing its self-satisfied expression. The crowd roared. Some applauded. Others yelled indignant remarks in her direction. But Karen quickly regained her composure. Her eyes sparkled, and like a petulant child, she began to defend herself. "Are you kidding me? You're telling me what to do? I'm a tourist. I have rights. I'm paying for this show. Got it? And you're supposed to entertain me." The crowd roared even louder. Now, dozens of judging gazes fell on Karen. "This is a disgrace!" someone yelled from the middle of the crowd. "Get her out of here! She doesn't know where she is!" The guard remained motionless, but his step and voice had changed everything. He was no longer just a figure in her eyes. Now, he was something far greater. Karen, however, was not going to back down. She cast a quick glance at the crowd and tried to regain control of the situation. "Relax! It's just a belt. It's not real," she yelled, trying to make the audience laugh again. But her voice no longer had the same confidence. The crowd was no longer on her side. Karen was still trying to keep up her confident front, but her voice grew louder and more hysterical. "Who are you to tell me what to do? I'm a tourist. I have rights." However, her shouts no longer had the same effect. The crowd was no longer on her side. People exchanged disappointed glances and shook their heads in disapproval. Many were holding their phones, recording her outbursts. The camera shutters clicked more frequently, as if everyone wanted to capture the moment of her shame. 2 security guards approached, strict and unfazed. "Ma'am, you've broken the rules. We ask that you leave the premises," one of them said with icy calm. Karen looked up, trying once more to object. "Do you know who I am? I'm a tourist. I'm paying for this and you." But the guards didn't let her finish. Gently but firmly, they took her by the elbows and led her toward the exit. The crowd erupted in applause and yells rang out. "Serves her right! Take that disgraceful tourist out of here!" Karen, head held high, tried to maintain an air of composure, but her face, red with anger and embarrassment, gave her away. At the exit, she glanced back at the crowd, but no one felt sympathy for her anymore. The next day, the video of her outburst went viral. Millions watched as she yanked on the guard's belt, screamed about her rights, and ultimately left the palace, to the sound of applause. The comments were filled with sarcasm. Did she think she bought a ticket to a circus show? Well, a clown has arrived. Guards are the pride of Britain, not your personal puppets. She should have spent her money on etiquette lessons. Karen was given the nickname, the disgraceful tourist, and her face became the new meme that spread across social media. Meanwhile, the guard, as if nothing had happened, adjusted his hat and once again stood at his post. His strict posture and unflinching gaze reminded the crowd that honor and tradition are beyond mockery.